Welcome one and all to the Battle Cat's Beginner's Guide. Now, if you've been watching these in sequence, you might have noticed that my voice has suddenly dropped. This is because this is a remaking of this original guide. Hopefully this will be a bigger and better guide, meaning that your path through Empire of Cats Chapter 2 Moon will be absolutely seamless. So Chapter 2 Moon, just like Chapter 1 Moon, lies at the end of its chapter. But the difference of Chapter 2 Moon is that this is where strategy really kind of starts to come into it. As my previous self said,
knowing what's in the moon is useful because you can tailor your army to be useful for that. Seems quite obvious, and indeed it probably is. All you need to do is think what's in there, and then what will help.
But before we look at strategy, there's something important to note, and this is very important. There was a previous episode about treasure, but it's always important to remind ourselves that treasure is very important. To be doing this level, ideally, you need all superior treasures, especially on Chapter 1. That means that on every level, you have the little gold icon at the top here. Don't worry about the Zs at the bottom, they have nothing to do with it. But as long as you have this gold icon for every level, that's a good start. And if you can't beat the moon, but you don't have these superior treasures, that might be a reason why. To get treasure, all you need to do is just keep doing the level until you're rewarded it. There's no way to influence how you get the treasure or the chance to get it unless you use one of these items, a treasure radar, which gives a 100% chance of treasure, but it uses up one of those items each time. So your best bet is to keep doing a level unless it's particularly difficult and you only really want to be doing it once. In which case, pop a treasure radar on when you're confident you can do it, and you'll get the superior treasure in that one run, guaranteed. Also, ideally, for Chapter 2, you will have all superior treasures for that as well. That means a golden icon on all of these. Again, the Z has nothing to do with it. All the way up to Hawaii, the level before Moon. On this account, I've done Moon and got the superior treasure there, but if you're about to do Moon, obviously, you won't have completed it to get the treasure. But everything up to Hawaii should ideally have a superior treasure on it. If you have all that, that's going to make your time in Moon significantly easier. The treasures buff your cats, nerf some of the enemies to some degree, and buff some of the utilities that you'll be using within the battle. If you find that within the battle there's some discrepancy between how things work for you, how fast you get monies, and how it looks for me, that is most likely because you haven't got all of these treasures yet. If you have all of them, you'll be on a definitely equal plane to where this video is. And there's nothing stopping you from being able to get the treasures as soon as you're able to do these stages, which you will have done if you're at the moon. Other things to note is probably these utilities within the upgrade menu are also maxed. Meaning at this stage of the game, up to a possible level 19. That's level 10 from XP and level +9 from getting duplicate items and placing them onto that item in order to get plus levels. Plus levels are discussed in a previous episode in the first series of the guide, and I can't be sure exactly how many plus levels I had when I first did this level, but it could have been no more than +9. So upgrade your utilities to level 10, then as far as you can with duplicate items. Never sell duplicate items for XP. Except for Cat Cannon Attack, which I would recommend not upgrading if you have not done that so far. Keep it that way. Because as you can see, it takes longer for the cannon to charge up if you increase its attack power, and the trade-off isn't worth it.
In the moon, there is Emperor Nyandam, and he is a red enemy. He basically sits in his chair, has his sort of wine glass, and then after a little while he sort of points at you angrily, and then spirits come out and attack you. And he's got quite a wide range of attack, but he doesn't attack that often. So something very useful to do with him is have fast cats that can get in and attack him. Another useful thing is to knock him back, because at any point while he's building up his attack, if you knock him back, he has to start his attack again. So if you keep doing that, he will never attack.
Right, So, I'm going to introduce to you here a rule of thumb as to how to do what I've just described. So, ignore the units that I've got on the field. This is far in the future and they're at levels and in forms that you won't have yet. This is mostly about the cat cannon usage. The cat cannon is the thing at the bottom right hand corner if you weren't aware, and at this current stage what it does is fire a sort of pink line of fire that disturbs things and does damage to them. The disturbing of things is what is most important here, because when you use it on Dark Emperor Nyandam while he's doing his attack, you'll be able to see that his attack stops and he has to start his attack all over again. But when should you fire the cat cannon? When is a good point as a rule of thumb to use it? So watch Emperor Nyandam carefully. You'll see he holds his sort of wine glass steady. And when he starts firing it and you start seeing the black spirits emerge from his hand, that is a good place to fire your cat cannon if you want to be cautious. If you want to be cautious but get some effect out disturbing his attack, fire the cat cannon, press on it when you see the sort of black circle emerging from where he's attacking. If you want to be a little braver, wait until the circle is at its biggest point before it starts moving forward to fire the cat cannon. I'll do that now. So he'll do that. The spirit goes large. As it starts to emerge towards you, we disturb him, which gives us a bigger benefit of time from if he just attacked normally. But if you want to be safe, when you first see the sort of overly circly thing emerging, if you want to be a little bit more daring, when the circle is large and isn't moving towards you at that point, but then that's a little bit more difficult to control. But either way, doing it like that will give your units more time to hit Dark Emperor Nyandam and will ultimately make it more likely for you to be able to beat the stage. And now we can return to ideas about the strategy itself. This is the strategy that I used in the original video. It's extremely pared back just so it can be completely applicable to everyone. And the only unit that we have that can knock back Nyandam, which is a trait that is really useful in cats that you use here, is bra cats.
That you get from going some of the way through Empire Cats Chapter 1. So completely recreatable.
Please note that the units used in this tutorial are limited to the extent that they are all what's known as no gacha units. That means that none of them came from rare cat capsules, and that's so that everybody can replicate the strat. However, you as a player have likely rolled some gacha, as it is termed, and have some of these units. Unfortunately, the filter tool, which allows you to look at these units by trait, is only unlocked after you've completed this level. So you're going to have to look for these units manually. The best way of doing that is to click on unit info and then the down arrow to the bottom right of the info box, and that has a series of traits that the units are good against. So you will have seen Whale Cat in the strategy. Ninja Frog Cat is another good one. This is a purchasable special cat, which you can get with cat food. I'd recommend avoiding using lil cats if you have any of them, because they are very weak in these forms. But you may have rare cats such as Witch Cat or Swordsman Cat. Both of these are very good anti-red units. Swordsman Cat does a lot of damage to them, and Witch Cat can slow them. Magica Cat is a generalist unit that is quite good against quite a lot of different enemies, and that can weaken them. You may even have super rares like Apple Cat or Bath Cat. These are very good indeed. Apple Cat can freeze red enemies, and Bath Cat does a lot of damage to them. And if you have an uber rare unit that's against reds, even better. That might make the level considerably easier for you, and don't hesitate in putting it in your slot. I'm not using these units so that the strat can be replicated by everyone, but when you're making a strat, only you need to be able to do it. Two especially useful units for this level are Whale and Titan Cat, both in their second form here, Whale and Mythical Titan they're known as, and they are good because they can survive hits from Nyandam, which, considering it does a lot of damage, is a really good thing. It means they can stay right up close and personal and are really useful in chipping it down in damage and making sure that your army is always at Nyandam so that he doesn't creep forward. Additionally, being an anti-red unit, Whale Cat will be very useful against the One Horn, which is sometimes a bit of a bother when you're trying to do this level. For the One Horn, just meat shield as much as you possibly can, have a whale behind it, a dragon behind it as well, and that should be more than enough. If it's not enough, it's probably something to do with how many treasures you have or what levels your units are. As regards items, Rich Cat can really help in this level, given how the boss comes out immediately after starting the level. And then twinned with a Rich Cat, a CPU can also be very useful. If you've seen the beginner guide video on the CPU, you'll know that when there's a max worker cat, it will spam what it can when it can. And with a level like this, that means you can pretty much just leave it to its own devices and it will win the level for you. But in case you don't happen to have any items, the completion of this level here I will be doing without any items. But if you're struggling, they can definitely help you. Upon beginning the battle, Rich Cat or not, you're going to want to use a technique known as luring, which is just allowing those enemy units to come a bit closer to you. The closer they are to you, the easier it is to sort of fight them, but don't let them get too close, otherwise they'll start destroying your base. When they get reasonably close, you just want a few meat shields and possibly some stuff behind that, like a dragon or a legs, just to be doing damage to them and getting rid of those units. But ultimately, if you haven't got a Rich Cat on, this is your opportunity to get the worker cat up at least a certain distance so that you can afford to put out plenty of units when you're into the real meat of the battle.
There's also many those guys, but luckily they're not too strong, so they'll actually really help to build up monies. At the same time, I'm going to be working up the worker cat. I'm going to upgrade the worker cat to level 5, and here he starts his attack. You see, his spirits, and then he knocks most of my cats back and kills them. But luckily, he doesn't kill my mythical titan cat. So that is now standing there, hitting him and his spirits, and what we're going to do now is, while he attacks, do the cat cannon, which is going to disrupt his attack, so Titan gets even more time to stand there and do damage to him. And that is how we're going to defeat Emperor Nyandam, by just in between him attacking us, hitting him. Now, the level has thought of that to a certain degree, which is why we have one horns and stuff like that trying to stop us. But a sort of benefit of these is that if they knock us back, we won't actually be in the range of Nyandam. He's going to stand where he is and attack us, but sometimes, if we're far back because of the other enemies, he won't actually hit us. This won't be the case now. He's going to hit us completely and kill a lot of our cats. But the speed at which we can spawn cats means that he's not actually making up any ground. So he can kill our cats, but we're just rinsing and repeating, and that way we're going to win.
This section here is where it's especially useful to have the CPU and Rich Cat combo, because if your worker cat's level 8 and the cat CPU is on, it will just spam what it can, when it can, with absolute precision and no latency whatsoever. Far faster than any player could possibly do it. And so the rest of the battle will just progress a little bit like this, with a bit of spamming everything that you have. If you're not using the CPU, just keep track on your monies, and otherwise you'll be completely fine. And then once Nyandam is dead, that's it. He is the only boss of the level. Past that, just the same peons that you've been having to deal with normally. A reason why something like Giraffe Cat is useful to have in your lineup is because of how many peons there are. As there are so many of these little squishy units like those guys, for example, you're going to want to be able to have fast attacks. Because they don't have much health, you want as many attacks as you can per second, so that you can get rid of as many of them as you can. And Giraffe Cat does a good job at that sort of thing. If you happen to have a unit that produces waves, that's another really useful thing to have here for those masses of peons. But don't worry about the imposing size of a hippo, for example. Anything that isn't red, you don't have to worry about.
Empire Cats Chapter 2 done. And the brilliant thing about this is that after we've completed this, there are a monumental amount of things that you can do. So this is the you've done the moon thing. But if we look, a new chapter for Empire Cats is available. That's Chapter 3. There are many other things that we can now do. This is one of the most brilliant things. The level cap has been increased. We can upgrade our cats to level 20. Double what they are currently at level 10. So that's going to help a lot. Because we defeated this, we got Valkyrie Cat, which is our first legend. The special cats that act a little bit sort of like uber rare cats that you'll get. Not quite, but they're the similar sort of thing with their abilities and are quite expensive and have long recharge times. It's going to be very useful for us. It's got a big stick and it pokes enemies with it and it does loads of damage.
I hope that this has helped you to beat Empire Cats Chapter 2 Moon. If it hasn't and you're still struggling, feel free to ask me and please detail what it is specifically that you're struggling with. I should be able to help you with that, so don't worry. Don't walk away in anger, I can continue to help you. And if it has helped you or you want to look at how to do other things, This is part of an entire series of guides. If you just happen to come here for this one video, there's a whole series of them, right from the start of the game to quite a lot further down the game, or up the game, depending on how you look at where the progress takes you. In any case, that will be linked in many a place, and I would recommend, if you are a beginner, to have a look at it, because there are an exhaustive number of specific tutorials for important milestones within the game. Be that stages to get new units, what progress ideally you should be making first, and user ranks you need to get to, and all sorts of things like that. So I hope that that interests you and will ultimately help you. That's the goal of this series, and I hope this has helped you. But again, if it hasn't, let me know. Hopefully I can help you further in a more specific context. And with that, I will bid you goodbye and say I hope you enjoyed.